Art Garfunkel, the distinctive tenor voice that brought life to half of the iconic folk rock duo Simon and Garfunkel, is a legend in his own right. His collaboration with childhood friend Paul Simon produced timeless hits like Sound of Silence, Mrs. Robinson, and Bridge Over Troubled Water, which still reverberate across generations. He's gearing up to turn 82 in November, and it's the perfect time to explore his life and recent endeavors. Join us as we go through the highs, lows, and everything in between. Facts Verse presents Art Garfunkel is 81. Look at him now, he'll never sing again. Losing his voice. In a 2010 concert in New Orleans, which was part of a Simon and Garfunkel reunion tour, then 78-year-old Art Garfunkel experienced a major setback to his singing career. Midway through the performance, he lost his ability to sing, an incident that led to the diagnosis of partial paralysis of one of his vocal cords. After the incident, Garfunkel stopped smoking both tobacco and cannabis later that same year. The freak medical crisis that took place a little more than a decade ago threw his career into uncertainty. In the immediate aftermath, Garfunkel, who had been singing since he was 5, canceled his tour with Simon and took a hiatus from performing. Not surprisingly, he was faced with a serious identity crisis as he couldn't imagine himself without singing. In his own words from a 2018 interview with The Desert Sun, Garfunkel said, quote, "I'm born to be a singer. I don't know myself without singing." Garfunkel's road to recovery was lengthy, taking until 2014 for him to regain his singing ability and resume touring. However, the journey wasn't easy and involved what he referred to as patience beyond patience. To aid his recovery, he began by softly singing along to the mellow tunes of his favorite artists, including James Taylor and the Everly Brothers. He then graduated to performing in empty concert halls, later progressing to small audiences such as his wife's Buddhist congregation and an art gallery in New York City with about 90 seats. In what he described as a major identity crisis, he transitioned from being the perfectionist Art Garfunkel to a far less capable and confident man he jokingly referred to as Walter. Despite the fears and doubts, Garfunkel bravely took on the challenge of getting back on stage, even when he felt he couldn't sing. Through a combination of adrenaline, fear, and sheer determination, he slowly regained his voice, stating in an interview, quote, "When you act as if you're recovered, the act brings along the truth." Finally, 4 years after the devastating incident, he felt comfortable enough to return to large-scale performances. What happened to Art? Following the dissolution of Simon and Garfunkel in 1970, Art Garfunkel embarked on a solo career, releasing his first critically acclaimed album, Angel Claire, in 1973. His second solo album, Breakaway, in 1975, marked a brief reunion with Simon, with the duo collaborating on What a Wonderful World. This was a poignant moment, marking the first Simon and Garfunkel track released since their breakup. However, a 1981 reunion concert in Central Park, which drew around 500,000 people, demonstrated that the pair still struggled with their working relationship. Subsequent plans for a tour and a double album were eventually abandoned, with the songs originally meant for their collaborative work ending up in Paul Simon's solo repertoire. Art then explored other avenues, taking up acting roles in movies such as 1971's Carnal Knowledge and TV shows like Arthur. Meanwhile, he continued to work on his solo music, occasionally collaborating with renowned artists like Bruce Springsteen. Despite his vocal cord issue in 2010, Garfunkel managed to recover and continue singing, stating in 2013 that his voice was 96% back after 3 years of diligent work. The breakup of Simon and Garfunkel originated from a perceived breach of trust. As one half of a massively successful musical duo, Art felt betrayed when Paul released a solo single under a different name while they were still signed to big records as a pair. This sparked tensions that eventually led to their official separation in 1970. When asked about a possible reunion with Simon, Garfunkel has expressed pessimism in recent years. In 2014, he was quoted saying, "I know that audiences all over the world like Simon and Garfunkel. I'm with them, but I don't think Paul Simon's with them." Further comments from both Simon and Garfunkel have reinforced the idea that a reunion is unlikely due to their personal issues. In the end, it seems their legacy is a complex one, shaped by immense success, personal tensions, and occasional reunions. As Garfunkel himself said in a 2017 interview, his relationship with Paul is, quote, "like a marriage that waxes and wanes." Simon says, The thought of a reunion of the legendary duo Simon and Garfunkel is naturally quite tantalizing to fans, but Paul Simon has been quite candid about the lack of likelihood of that event. In a 2016 interview with David Green on NPR, Simon underscored his belief that a reunion was not on the horizon. He said, quote, "I don't think most people do want a reunion. The fact is, we did do 2 big reunions and we're done." Simon's comments point to a deeply strained relationship with Garfunkel, suggesting that their reunions were less about reliving the glory days and more about fulfilling perceived obligations. He further clarified his stance, saying, "Quite honestly, we don't get along, so it's not like it's fun." The artist's focus has decidedly shifted to his solo career since the dissolution of Simon and Garfunkel. He's one of the best-selling artists of all time and has consistently churned out critically acclaimed music, showcasing his immense talent and versatility. His 15th solo studio album, 7 Psalms, released May 19, 2023, demonstrates his continued creativity and dedication to his craft. The album, conceived as a 7-part piece to be listened to in its entirety, is an entirely acoustic performance featuring guests like Wynton Marsalis and Simon's wife, Edie Brickell. Over the years, he's garnered numerous awards and accolades, including 12 Grammys, a Lifetime Achievement Award, an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, both as part of Simon and Garfunkel and as a solo artist. Garfunkel has had his fair share of noteworthy achievements too. Beyond his successful solo career, he received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award with Simon and was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as part of the duo. Despite the friction, both artists have continued to contribute significantly to the musical landscape. Passing the torch. While a Simon and Garfunkel tour might not be in the cards, Art Garfunkel's musical legacy continues to reverberate through his son, Art Garfunkel Jr., who has embraced the world of music with a passion and talent reminiscent of his father. Carrying the same name as his legendary father, the young Garfunkel is imbued with a sense of musical tradition, but he brings his own unique style and flavor to his work. Born into a household resonating with melodies and harmonies, Garfunkel Jr. had an early exposure to music. This led to an interest in it and eventually a career in the field. His musical style, while reflective of his father's influence, also showcases his unique flair and understanding of contemporary music trends. Though he has big shoes to fill, Art Jr. has shown promise, demonstrating the same emotive power and musical versatility that characterized his father's career. While following in the footsteps of a renowned musician can be daunting, Art Jr. embraces the challenge. By choosing to follow a musical path, he's not only continuing his father's legacy, but also carving out his own. Now it's time to hear from you. Would you go see a reunion tour of Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon? Let us know in the comments section below.